What's going on there, guys? We're back with another one. Got to talk about this big perk Brian Scalabrine thing that's going on now. Brian Scalabrine has some things to say about Perk in regards to some of the comments he made about Joe Mazzulla. And also, Perk has responded to those comments, and Perk has reminded Brian Scalabrine that he was an integral part of the championship while Scalabrine was in street clothes most of the time, was a fan favorite, but not to get it misconstrued of who was actually contributing night in, night out for them to win their championship. So it's been a little back and forth. And I don't know if Brian Scalabrini's comments come from a malicious place, but Perk definitely went in and let it be known. I think Scalabrini is still commentating, doing some work over there in Boston. So maybe he gets the pulse of the city and the feeling around Kendrick Perkins. He's kind of looked at as a LeBron James fan slash New York Knicks supporter. And, they have a very good team with the Celtics right now. He also said blow up the Tatum and Brown thing a few years ago. Tatum and Brown go on to win a title, start to mesh a little better under Joe Mazzulla and start to figure some things out with some roster reconfiguration, right? So we're gonna get into what was said, and I'll give you my reaction.
So he's not coming back to Boston at all? He's not welcome back?
He's all good, like doing the other side. I think the comments about Joe Mazzulla were out of hand. You can't call the coach of the Boston Celtics a dodo bird. Like, you just can't do that. Like, I don't know for a fact that the organization is like, nah, we don't want nothing to do with Kendrick Perkins. Anybody else from '08, anybody else from back in the day, there's old timers coming through all the time. I'm just not sure that like Jason Tatum and Joe Mazzulla and Jaylen Brown are going to love when Kendrick Perkins shows up. I'm just not sure about that. This is so funny how like the media is. A lot of people need to be spoon-fed like a baby, right? Like Joe Mazzulla doesn't call timeouts when they want him to. But then all of a sudden we're making a playoff run and LeBron James comes out and says Joe Mazzulla's a genius. And guess what the rest of ESPN does after that? They all got spoon-fed by their daddy, LeBron James. And all of a sudden now, I guess Joe Mazzulla is a genius. Like, come on, guys.
Is it true that the Celtics banned you from ring night?
To be quite honest, I don't give a fuck, right? I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck because here's the thing. I never take winning the championship for granted.
Right.
But they act like you have to be tied to that situation or that's your life, right? Like, it was an honor to play for one of the most historical franchises. I never take that for granted.
Right.
I think what ended up happening was, I said a take about Joe Mazzulla. They win the championship and Brian Scalabrine, fucking Scal, is like, well, the door's not just open for him to come back to the Celtic organization. Now, it's two things I took from there. One, Scal, who the fuck are you?
Right.
You was the same motherfucker that when we won a championship was in street clothes, hurry up and went changed into your jersey. So once we started taking pictures, you could know that you was part of the team. And I actually like Scal, but I thought that should have been a phone conversation, right? Started this season, I actually get an email from Joe Mazzulla saying, whenever you're free, if you're in Boston or we play the Rockets, I want to go to dinner and break bread.
So you gonna take that dinner with Mazzulla?
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually starting to love the way that he is.
And you got to think, like, his growing pains were on TV. He was thrown in the fire immediately.
Yeah.
And he got exposed in that first round of the playoffs. And I think, like most players, he went back and got better from it.
He did.
Yeah, man. So that was Kendrick Perkins' response. Sounds like him and Joe Mazzulla is gonna sit down and talk about it. And that's what men do, right? Perk was giving his take, and Mazzulla has grown as a coach, and he's winning. He's secure with himself, and he knows the TV game. What Mazzulla knows is him winning the championship. Now I've proven that your criticisms aren't fair at this point. So what foundation do they have, right? They could have even been true at the time, but if I've gone on and developed as a better coach, why do I need to continue to fight that or harbor those feelings towards you when you were probably correct at the time? So Joe Mazzulla and Perk gonna sit down. Brian Scalabrine may be speaking from some firsthand because I know he's tapped in Boston and they love him there. They love him like they love actual great players that play for the franchise. So I'm not discrediting what he's saying. Perk said, he don't care if he was banned from ring night ceremony. He don't really care. And I think sometimes players do care more than they're letting on, right? You do care if you were a part of something. But I also think some players really are fine. Like as fans, sometimes we get more invested than they are with the team. They've collected the checks. They've played for the organization. I think Perk still has a sore spot for when he was traded to Oklahoma City. He wanted to stay in Boston. Remember, that wasn't a pretty divorce between team and player. He was not happy at all, to go to that situation in OKC. And not really the situation, because he ended up on a good team, Russell Westbrook, KD, and it was still competitive. But he had just won a title in Boston not long ago and really just wanted to stay there with the guys. So Perk didn't really appreciate the split. So I think the feelings he had for the organization at that time, um, kind of he had to compartmentalize at the time and continue his career, but he was very much invested early on. And I think that's the part that the fans not looking at. He played his best ball there, to be honest with you. Um, he was still catching it on the block and dunking with two hands off a drop step back then. That was that Perk. Back then he was very good defensively. Some of the bigger, stronger centers, you would throw Big Perk out there to bang with him in the post and really just to be a presence. Hard fouls, blocks, rebounds, all that stuff. So yeah, man, Perk, he does love Boston, and I think some of those emotions and feelings will come out when he has the talk with Joe Mazzulla. Now I know in Scalabrine's video he did mention Jaylen Brown, and I don't know if Jaylen Brown feels that way, but Jaylen Brown wouldn't be able to keep him out of Boston. If KG and Paul Pierce and those guys, like they still was cool with Big Perk last time I checked. And if they want him there, Jaylen Brown's not gonna be able to keep him away from Boston. You know what I'm saying? If he's still cool with Rondo, all those guys that come back, if they all cool with Perk, there's nothing Jaylen Brown can do about that, or Tatum, or any current player. So it would be more about how even some of the older legends feel about Kendrick Perkins than those guys, in my opinion. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Kendrick Perkins addressing Brian Scalabrine, saying he was really the guy out there contributing to the team, and you were just like, yeah, you were loved by the fans, but you were more so the make-a-wish player at the end of the game that hits a three or whatever. So you were more so the guy, fan favorite, comes in, hits a three at the end of the game that the fans love, but not really a heavy contributor like that. Let me know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Till next time. Peace.
Skip tweeted something, and although I disagree with the tweet, and hopefully Skip would take it down.
I'm not going to take it down.
I cannot even get to a monologue without you interrupting. Okay. I cannot even get to a monologue without you interrupting. Okay. I cannot even get to a monologue. Let's go, Jen. Interrupting. Okay. I cannot even get to a monologue.